Okay, first thing I want to say is to Madeline and Emma and Micah and Dylan, I don't ever mean to force anybody to do anything they're uncomfortable with. So thank you for letting me volunteer you to help pass those things out. I very much appreciate it. And if you'll notice, our new decor after Christmas. How do we feel about this? Steve, what did you say to me yesterday? He said, I don't remember, but it wasn't good. He said, Andrea, it's looking a little bleak in here. And I said, that's the point. Yes. It is looking a little barren. It's looking a little bleak. After the beauty of our Christmas decorations and how they filled the poinsettias here and all the Christmas trees there and the ornaments, it does look a little bleak and a little barren. We are spending the next few weeks talking about seasons, different seasons in our life, different times that we go through. Seasons is one of those words, in Greek there are two words for time, and one is chronos and one is kairos. And chronos time is where we get our word chronological. It's when everything goes in the direct order that it's supposed to be. So when we say this is going to take an hour, that's chronos time. But sometimes we have moments in life that are kairos times where it's not about the actual literal minute, but it's a season, it's a moment when we do something and it feels like time just flew, or when we're in a hard time and it feels like this is taking forever. These are kairos times. We're going to be talking about seasons in our lives, kind of connected to the seasons of winter. It feels appropriate to me that we're doing this now because we've entered what I call deep winter. Since moving to Missouri, this is a new terminology for me. Winter, I believe, starts in December, just period, it does. And the first part of winter, fun winter, joyful winter, is looking forward to Christmas. And then you get through Christmas and you get through New Year's, and now we've just entered deep winter, where there's nothing really to look forward to anymore except really cold days, really long nights, a lot of indoor time, much darkness. If you look outside, it's not very colorful. It's mostly brown and white. And I love the snow, but outside it looks a little bleak and a little barren. There's not a whole lot of joyful, delightful things that you just see when you look at the landscape of deep winter. And it makes me think of all of the different seasons that we go through in life. We go through our own springs, and we go through our own summers, and we go through points that feel like our own deep winters too. All of us. This is just a part of life. Yesterday, my daughter decided to make cookies. She found what's it called? Like a bag, a cookie mix bag in the pantry that one of her grandparents had left here over Christmas. And so she decided to make cookies as like a last minute thing. So she had never done this before, so I was helping her get the ingredients and figuring out how, and it called for softened, not melted butter. And if you know that means like, oh, I really should have planned this 2 hours ago so that I could leave this butter out of the fridge and let it soften. But I heard of this trick for how you can soften butter quickly. So we did it. I told her my trick. I said, we're just going to try this. It's just going to take a few minutes. So we did it. It felt appropriately soft, and we put it in the bowl with all the other things, and we started mixing. And I was like, okay, the instructions say that this should be turning to dough. And this is not turning to dough. This is just chunks. This is just chunks of things, and there's very much a lot of powder in here, and this is not working. And I said, okay, Zoe, so here's the thing. I think we might have made a mistake. I think the butter wasn't quite soft enough. I think my trick didn't totally work. And that's okay. Life is never perfect. Nothing ever goes exactly the way it's supposed to. So you just have to figure out what to do when things go wrong. When, not if, because things will always go wrong. So you just have to adapt. So for now, we're just going to keep mixing. So we just kept stirring and stirring. We got the electric mixer out so it was less hard on our arms. We mixed for way longer than I think we should have had to. And eventually, that cookie mix did become dough. She did put it in the oven. It did turn into really delightful, delicious cookies that my children fought over for the rest of the day. But that phrase, when, not if, I think that was in my mind because of the verses we were talking about this morning. I want you to look with me again at the beginning of the verses that Matt read for us today, and I've actually put them up here on the screen. These are the verses from Isaiah. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through deep rivers, the waves will not overcome you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. For I am the Lord your God. Let me pause for one moment to say, thinking about the California wildfires and these verses that talk about fire, it feels really, I just want to point out that the things we're talking about today feel sometimes insensitive to the wildfires that are actually happening. We're talking about seasons in our life, so please know we are very much caring for the people who are actually dealing with real life flames in their lives right now, even though we're going a little bit of a different place in our sermon this morning. When I read these scriptures, every time I read these scriptures, I notice a few different things. The first thing I notice is the miraculous, though figurative mostly, claims that the fire won't burn us or that the waters won't overcome us. I notice that every time we read. Every time we read these scriptures, I notice the promise of God to be with us through all of it. That God is with us, God is our God, God is walking through all of these things with us. I always notice that. But I noticed something else this week when I was preparing for this scripture, and it's that word, when. When you pass through the waters, when you pass through deep rivers, when you walk through the fire. When, not if. This is not a claim about one day if something crazy happens and you suddenly find yourself going through deep waters. It's not a hypothetical and hopefully this never happens. It's a when. Not an if. It's prophetic. It's reality. When you find yourself here, because at some point or another you will find yourself here. At some point or another, you'll find yourself in a season where you're worried that you're going to drown, where it feels like you are walking through deep waters and it feels like they might overtake you. At some point or another, you'll find yourself in a season where things are just bleak and barren and blah. And it feels like a deep winter and you don't know how long it will last. These things happen. They are part of life. And I got to be honest, I kind of hate that. I kind of hate that this is a when and not an if. I kind of hate that we're all going to go through seasons that feel like deep winters or deep waters. Doesn't it seem like if we do everything right, if we follow God's law, if we're good and righteous, if we are kind and considerate of other people, shouldn't everything go well for us all the time? Shouldn't it? It should. Let's just all agree. It should. Why is it inevitable that we'll pass through deep waters or go through deep winters? Why does winter have to come for all of us? And I want to take a moment today, instead of answering those questions, to just consider an alternative viewpoint. We tend to look at seasons, especially some of the seasons we see here, some of the seasons of deep waters or deep winters, as bad things. As if seasons of life should feel like spring or summer all the time, and we never want to enter our falls or our winters. Spring and summer, those are the good ones. That's the way it should always be. But the truth is that winters are good too. These other more difficult seasons, they can be good too. You may have noticed under the sermon title that I included these two short verses from Exodus chapter 23. And I've put them up here on the screen as well so that you can read them with me. This is what Exodus 23 says. For 6 years you are to sow your fields and harvest the crops, but during the 7th year, let the land lie unplowed and unused. Then the poor among your people may get food from it, and the wild animals may eat what is left. Do the same with your vineyard and your olive grove. So I did a little research on this week, and then I backed up my research this morning at breakfast by talking to Brad and Ann, who are our agricultural experts about this. The research that I did online says that letting the land lie unplowed and unused, letting it lie fallow, is actually really good. After 6 years of cultivation, which is what's going on, after 6 years, don't harvest it, don't plant, don't be intentional about what grows on that land. And it says that that letting it go unplowed and unused actually replenishes the soil. It replenishes the nutrients in the soil, and it actually means that the crops for the next year it'll be a better harvest next year. It'll be more fertile next year if you let it lie for a year and let it rest. Now, when I talked to Brad and Ann about this, these days in American agriculture, it's a little bit different. Brad was like, if you let dirt just sit there, it's going to die. It doesn't replenish any minerals. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to say that from the pulpit because that totally blows my point. Totally, I can't. So Chuck told me that I should just say, Brad says one thing, but the Lord says another. So, Brad may be our agricultural expert, okay, but the Bible tells us about our harvest and our crops. I do think that one thing that Brad and Ann did say is that switching up the crops, letting it cultivate something new is really good for the soil, and not the idea of just letting it lie completely dead, but don't cultivate it, don't just focus on productivity, and let it grow whatever is going to grow. Like when I read these verses, let the land lie unplowed, meaning like whatever's going to grow, just let it grow. Whatever's going to happen, just let it be. And it will grow because the wild animals are going to get food from it. The poor among you are going to get food from it. So something is going to be moving in that soil. What this says to me is that God is still moving in that soil, even when we are not the ones who are guiding it and plowing it and making it productive. When we have these moments where it feels like we are lying fallow, where we don't feel like we're moving the way we should, or we don't feel like we're in our blossoming season or our summer season, and things just feel like we're in deep winters, we can trust that God is still moving in that there is still a reason for that. Maybe that reason is rest. Maybe that reason is that we need our own replenishing or renewal, that we need to be prepared for what's coming next, and we don't know what's coming next, but God does. So we're in this season that might feel like deep winter, but it's actually a season of preparation for whatever is happening next. When we often hit these seasons that feel like these barren fields, they're usually not our favorite, and usually we just want to get through them as fast as we possibly can. But when I think about these verses, when I think about even what Brad and Ann said about how when you just let things grow on their own, this is still beneficial for soil. Maybe we can look at our seasons of deep waters or deep winters as if, this is a season where I don't feel like I'm in control. And that's okay, because we know the one who is. And maybe new things are going to come up. And maybe I'm going to rest and get replenished. Or maybe I'm going to see what crops up that I never expected. Maybe we don't have to hate our deep, dark seasons of winter. Maybe God has a very particular purpose in allowing us to go through them. And I say that, and that's a hard thing to actually say from a pulpit, because I don't ever want to be the person who's like, oh, you're going through a hard time. That's okay. Everything happens for a reason. God clearly wants you to go through this really horrible time in your life, and God's going to do something good. Like, I've heard that kind of theology my whole life. I do not agree with it. So that's not what I'm trying to say. And this is a 3-part series, so we're going to get more into that later in the upcoming weeks. So you'll hear more from me about that. But I do want to say that sometimes we go through these seasons and all we want to do is just get out of them. We don't like this. We want to get back to normal. We want things to feel like they used to feel. And I hope that maybe we can shift our view and realize that God is still working even in these seasons. Not only is God with us, but God is still doing things. And maybe we don't see it and maybe we don't know. But we can trust that that's happening. I think too often we try to reason it out, especially when we're going through things and it feels like this isn't the way it needs to be, and we wonder what we've done wrong, or if God is mad at us, or if we're being punished for something. We try to reason out why this bad thing, this thing that we view as bad, is happening to us right now. My son, Micah, has this kind of brain that tries to reason things out all the time, and it actually really scares me. Really scares me. I think he's smarter than I am, and he's 6, and I don't know how to handle that. He feels deeply, he thinks deeply, and I'm so impressed with the ways he tries to connect the dots and put things together, and most of the time, he does this really well. He'll eat some cookies, and he'll have a tummy ache, and he'll go, oh, my stomach hurts. I must have eaten too many cookies today. And I'm like, well, that's exactly what I would have said. So, yeah. And he does this all the time in different things that I haven't helped him. But sometimes he'll try to put 2 and 2 together, and it comes out equaling 17 instead of 4. There was one time that he and Zoe, his 11-year-old sister, were wrestling with each other, and Zoe kept winning this wrestling match. She kept hitting him, or she kept getting, I don't know what it was, but she kept winning. And he came up to me and he goes, I kept losing to Zoe, and it's because I didn't eat my vegetables. And I said, okay, but we have told Micah that eating his vegetables helps him grow big and strong. And he's not stronger than Zoe yet, so clearly the reason he keeps losing is because he's not eating enough of his vegetables. He's trying to put 2 and 2 together, but we know he's missing just a little bit of information. I think this is what we do with God too. We try to reason out our seasons, especially our seasons of deep waters or deep winters. We try to figure out why things aren't going the way we want them to, or the way we think they should, and we can usually come up with something. I didn't eat my vegetables. I didn't pray hard enough about that. We can usually come up with some reason why it's not going the way we want it to. And sometimes we hit a difficult season and it's no one's fault. It's just life. These things just happen. John 16:33 is one of my favorite verses, and Jesus says, in this world you will have trouble. You will. Not if, but when. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. That's what Jesus says. We try to reason them out and figure out why they're not happening, and sometimes it's just life. We just go through hard things. Sometimes we find ourselves in seasons that feel lovely and delightful, and we wish we could stay here forever. And sometimes we don't find ourselves in those seasons. And it's not necessarily that anything is wrong, that we've sinned, that we've done anything wrong. Sometimes it's just life. And I wonder, what if we could learn to look at our seasons the same way we look at seasons of the year? We know that they come, and we know that they go. We know that there will be a new season after this one. We know that they each have their own purposes, that they're each necessary in their own way. We know that the coming of winter doesn't mean we did something wrong in the spring. It's just life. Winter is not a punishment, even for those of us who don't like it or don't prefer it. I wonder if we would allow more grace for our seasons, even the ones we don't like, if we remembered the good news from Isaiah that when, not if, we hit these seasons, that God is with us, walking there with us, reminding us that we are his, that he is working for our good. I wonder if our burdens would feel lighter, if we could let ourselves have patience for our different seasons, knowing the good news from Exodus, that sometimes when the land lies fallow, it's because God is doing something new with it. Pencil. Sometimes when the land lies fallow, it's because God is repairing or restoring or preparing for what's next. Sometimes the season that we're going through can be good, even if it doesn't feel like that. I wonder if we could have more patience for our seasons. Megan is about to sing a song for us that is aptly called Seasons. And we've printed the lyrics in your worship guide so that you could follow along as she sings. And there are two lines that I especially love in this song. I love all of the song. There are two lines that I especially love that I want to point out to you as we get into it. The first one is the last line. The first one is the last line in the third paragraph. Melt the ice of this wild soul till the barren is beautiful. Till the barren and the bleak, till the winter, till the plain choir loft is beautiful. I hope we can learn to see the beauty even in those seasons that feel barren and feel bleak. And my second favorite line is actually like a whole paragraph. I don't have my worship guide with me, so it's somewhere down one of the bottom paragraphs, and it starts with, I didn't put the very first line. I can see the promise. I can see the future. You're the God of seasons. I'm just in the winter. If all I know of harvest is that it's worth my patience, then if you're not done working, then God, I'm not done waiting. I love that line. If you're not done working, then God, I'm not done waiting. As you listen to Megan sing, I want you to ponder the different seasons of your life, and I want you to ponder them in relation to the star word that you got earlier. We've left a blank space at the bottom of that second column for those of you who are note takers. And I want you to ask yourself, how might this word help guide me closer to Christ in my seasons of spring and in my seasons of summer? And how might this word help guide me closer to Christ in seasons that feel like fall or in seasons that feel like deep winter? And I invite you to ponder that. I invite you to listen as Megan sings and to do both of these things in a spirit of worship.